I would say I've become a more tolerant person, a more accepting person. And it is frustrating to hear people repeat stereotypes and about places they've never been. And not that I've been to everywhere in the world, but, you know, like, oh, how can you say that about this place? You know nothing about it. Just what you see on the TV, and, you know, just stop watching TV. I've learned that people are people everywhere. People are the same. People want friendship and love and a secure home and shelter and food. They may go about it differently in a way that we kind of don't agree with necessarily, but the basics are there. So I look at every news story very differently. Having been in the Middle East, I look at stories of Palestine and Israel with a whole different viewpoint, and looking at people as evil. And to me, no one's evil. People do nasty things, but there's reasoning behind, for them, of why they're doing it. We may not agree with that reasoning, but if you get to the basis, it's they want their own home and their way of life, and that's maybe what they're fighting for. So that has changed. I know when I moved to Mexico, I had never met a Latino person before moving to Mexico, when I was 25 when I moved to Mexico. So Cleveland, you have to remember, this is not California. I lived in Cleveland, and so it was weird because I won't say my parents or family are, you know, say derogatory things, but you hear things in the news and things you read. And so I probably had a negative perception of Mexicans. I know I never knew about blonde Mexicans, like naturally blonde Mexicans. So I remember moving to Mexico, I'm like, wait, Mexicans can be blonde? And I'm like, wait, they're rich? I mean, in Mexico City, there's areas of the town where people live in these mansions. And I'm like, but Mexicans are poor, and Mexicans jump our borders, and Mexicans take our jobs. And I'm like, well, not all Mexicans, and that's not true. And so being able to meet people just face to face, and I always say that, just to get to know someone, just can dissolve stereotypes that you have, and give you a greater perspective to know that my way of life is right for me. Doesn't mean it's right for everyone else, doesn't mean it's the same, and it doesn't mean that different is bad, right? There's something going on that's different, and that's okay, and that can be great too. You may not agree with a lot of things. I remember being in Mali, and we were hiking from Dogon villages, and we just kept watching the women do all the work. Women are working and working, and the men are just kind of sitting around. So I asked our guide, I'm like, what's up with that? Why are the women, like, and the kids working, and the guys sitting in the shade? And he said, oh, the men, they are thinking. And like, my first reaction is to be like, what the, like, they can't work and think at the same time. But I can't question that, you know, those are my beliefs that come from my upbringing. You know, and I can't sit there and tell him it should be different, like the men should be working too. So just remembering that what you believe is your truth, right? It's not everyone else's truth. So when you go somewhere, or when travelers go somewhere with that idea of things must be exactly the same, then that's an obnoxious traveler to me.